Epidemic Disease Act and its limitations. So, the act came into effect amidst the outbreak of bubonic plague in Bombay. This colonial era act is India's solitary law that has been historically used as a framework for containing the spread of various viruses, including cholera and malaria. The law authorizes authorizes the central and state government to take exceptional measures and prescribe regulations to be observed by the citizens to contain the spread of virus or disease. So, Section 2 of the Act states that the state government may take measures and prescribe regulations for inspection of persons traveling. It also specifies the consequences that will be faced by these violating the Act. The EDA is deficient of for three key reasons. First, the law fails to define dangerous and infectious or contagious diseases and an epidemic. So there is no elaboration in the Act on the extent of rules and procedures for arriving at a benchmark to determine that a particular disease needs to be declared as an epidemic. The second limitation that the EDA contains no provisions on isolation and sequencing required for dissemination of drugs and vaccines, and quarantine measures and other preventive steps that need to be taken. Third, the Act emphasizes only the powers of central and the state government during the epidemic, but it does not describe the government's duties in preventing and controlling the epidemic. Nor does it explicitly state the rights of citizens during the event of significant disease outbreak. Disaster Management Act 2005 associated issues. COVID 19 was declared as a notified disaster, allowing the central government wide powers by laying down policies and plans and guidelines for disaster management to ensure a timely, effective response to the disaster. Section 72 of DMA 2005 provides that the provision of the Act will have an overriding effect on all other laws to the extent that they are inconsistent. Notifications, guidelines, circulars, and clarifications are being issued from the center and little coordination or forethought on the implementation or consequences. This asymmetry in power between center and state, which is mediated by DMA, leaves the state with no maneuvering space that could be used to design and enforce lockdown, keeping cultural and social norms in mind. Issues have raised the DM Act should not be seen as a carte blanche to micromanage the COVID 19 crisis. The central government should restrict its actions under the DME Act to ensure coordination between states rather than dictating consistency across states. Earlier initiatives and other recommendations. So, the draft Public Health Prevention, Control and Management of Epidemic, Bioterrorism and Disasters Bill, the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare had bought it in 2017 to fill these gaps. It was jointly prepared by National Center for Disease Control (NCDC) and the Directorate General of Health Services (DGHS), and also tried to address the need to empower local government bodies given the peculiarities of each emergency situation. It was expected that with the implementation of this law, the old Epidemic Disease Act 1897 would be repealed. The bill was, however, not tabled in the parliament. Second, the National Health Emergency Bill 2009 was similarly targeted at providing an overarching legal framework for provision of essential public health services by recognizing health as a fundamental right of the people. It also provided for a response mechanism for public health emergencies by outlining a collaborative federal framework. However, it was considered by the state as encroachment on their domains. There have been attempts to draft statutes predicated on community health, such as Model Public Health Act 1955, updated in 1987. The Union government, however, has been unable to convince states to adopt the law since health is a state subject. The Second Administrative Reforms Commission had recommended the addition of a new entry in concurrent list for management of disaster and emergencies, natural or man-made. This had also been recommended by National Commission to Review the Working of Constitution 2002 and later by Ministry of Home Affairs Task Force set up to review the DM Act 2013. Conclusion is, in a country governed by the rule of law, it is essential that all powers be exercised in a manner that is constitutionally grounded. For responsive and efficient governance that is tailored to meet local exigencies, state and third tier government should be taking the lead in tackling the public health crisis, as they have been doing earlier, with ample support from the center. The COVID 19 public health emergency provides the central government a rare opportunity to update the country's law and pave way for a new one that can better address the health emergencies that India might face in the future. Learning from global best practices, Canada. Emergency measures, emergency management at a federal level are governed by Emergency Act 1988 and Emergency Management Act 2007. Most provinces also have their own health acts that delineates measures that are to be implemented in case of health emergency. Hence, most health crises in Canada are handled at provincial level in coordination with the central government. Australia. National Health Security Act 2007 puts in place processes and is structured to preempt, prevent, in an eventuality, deal with national health emergencies with designated entities providing coordination and oversight at the national level and the provinces applying their own laws, jurisdictional responses and coordination processes. England, Public Health Control of Disease Act 1984 was brought into force with the aim of creating specific functions for different authorities in response to national health emergency. This act provides for a clear hierarchical chain in which primary, secondary and tertiary responders need to operate when dealing with health challenge. Then we have ordinance to protect health workers. So why it is in news? The president promulgated an epidemic disease amendment ordinance 2020 to amend the Epidemic Disease Act 1897 to protect healthcare service personnel property, including their living working premises against violence during epidemics. Key features of the ordinance. Definition. The ordinance defined healthcare services personally as a person who is at risk of contracting the epidemic disease while carrying out duties related to the epidemic. It includes any public or and clinical health service providers such as doctor, nurses, paramedical workers, community health workers. Any other person empowered under the Act to take measures to prevent the outbreak of disease or spread thereof. Any person declared as such by the state government by notification in the official gazette. Second, act of violence. It includes any of the following acts committed against a health service personnel: harassment or impacting living or working conditions, harm, injury, hurt, and danger to life, obstruction in discharge of his duties, loss or damage to the property or documents of healthcare service personnel. Punishment. The violence is punishable with imprisonment between 3 months and 5 years and a fine between 50,000 to 2 lakh rupees, which can be compounded by the victim with the permission of the court. In case of grievous harm, it is punishable with imprisonment between 6 months and 7 years and a fine between 1 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees. These offences are cognizable and non bailable. Compensation. The person convicted of offences under the ordinance will also be liable to pay compensation to the healthcare service personnel whom they have hurt. Investigation. Case is registered with the investigated by the police officers not below the rank of inspector. The investigation must be completed within 30 days from the date of registration of FIR. Trial. The inquiry or the trial should be concluded within 1 year. It is not concluded with this time period. The judge must record the reason for the delay and extend the time period. However, the time period may not be extended for more than 6 months at a time. Burden of proof for offences fall on the guilty. Need for the ordinance. No stringent laws. Several states have enacted special laws to offer protection to doctors and other medical personnel in the past. However, the panel provisions contained in these laws are not stringent enough to deter mischief mongering. They generally do not cover harassment at home, workplace, and are focused more on physical violence only. Low health literacy in the population, perpetuated by myths and false belief, led failure to understand a rational view. Misconception in the society that every death results from the failure of doctors avoiding one's duties, etc. Lack of adequate security and crowd control measures in most of the hospitals, especially in government sector. Conclusion. Although the ordinance acts as a deterrence to some extent, it is applicable only during the epidemic. Hence, there is a need to bring comprehensive law to address the issues of violence on healthcare workers permanently. The Prevention of Violence Against Doctors, Medical Professionals and Medical Institution Bill 2018 should be passed which consist of provisions such as to provide able and timely assistance to the victim of medical negligence or mismanagement established in district-wise committee to aid and advise such victims for taking recourse to an appropriate forum for a suitable relief. Next, we are going to talk about reservation policy. First we should take the block item. In reservation policy, we are going to read why in news, its details, then future schedule of constitution, then constitutional provisions regarding reservation. After that, reservation in Indian context, judicial pronouncements regarding reservation, etc. So let's just get started. Why it is in news? The Supreme Court five-judge Constitution bench held that providing 100% reservation for STs in scheduled areas of state is not permissible. So, what are the details? The erstwhile state of Andhra Pradesh issued an order in 2000 providing 100% reservation to the scheduled tribe candidates, out of whom 33% shall be women for the post of teachers in schools located in the scheduled areas of the states. Earlier, 1986, the governor of Andhra Pradesh, in exercise of powers under fifth schedule, also directed the post of teachers in educational institutions in scheduled tribe areas of state to be reversed for scheduled tribes. However, recently Supreme Court held that 100% reservation is discriminatory and impermissible, as it violated Article 14, equality before law, 15, discrimination against citizens, and 16, equal opportunity of the Constitution. 100% reservation to the scheduled tribes also deprive general category, scheduled caste and others, and backward classes also of their due representation. The court referred to Indra Swani judgment which caps reservation at 50%. The judgment further includes that equality of opportunity and pursuit of choice cannot be deprived of arbitrarily. It also said that power of governor to make modification and exceptions to any parliamentary law under fifth schedule of the constitution does not entitle him to substitute the law or make a new law altogether. Then we talk about reservation in Indian context. It is a form of affirmative action whereby a percentage of seats are reserved in the government service and educational institutions for the socially and educationally backward communities and scheduled castes and tribes who are inadequately represented in these services and institutions. Second, 10% reservation of economically weaker section was recently provided by 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act 2018. It amended Article 15 and 16 to provide reservation to economically weaker section in admission to educational institution and government post. Reservation is provided to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes at the rate of 15%, 7.5%, 27% respectively, in case of direct recruitment on all India basis by open competition. Persons with Disability Act 1995 provides for reservation for persons with disability in India. Under the Act, the persons with disabilities got 3% reservation in both government jobs and higher educational institutions. Judicial pronouncement regarding reservation. So, first, the state of Madras versus Champakam Dorai Rajan, 1951. The Supreme Court upheld the decision of Madras High Court, which struck down a government order of 1927 regarding caste-based reservation in government jobs and educational institutions. The judgment also made basis of adding Article 15(4) by First Constitutional Amendment Act 1951. Second is the Indra Swane versus Union of India, 1992. A nine-judge constitution bench of Supreme Court by 3 majority held that decision of Union government to reserve 27% government jobs for backward classes with elimination of creamy layer is constitutionally valid. The reservation of seats shall not confine to initial appointments and not to promotions, and total reservation shall not exceed 50%. Then M. Nagaraja, Union of India, 2006, A five-judge constitution bench of Supreme Court validated the Parliament decision to extend the reservation for SC/STs to include the backward promotion of three conditions. With three conditions. First, state has to provide proof of backwardness of class benefiting from the reservation. Second, state has to collect quantifiable data showing inadequacy of representation of that class in public employment. Third, state has to show how reservation in promotion would further administratively efficiency. Then Jarnal Singh versus Lakshmi Narayan Gupta 2018 Supreme Court held that the government need not to correct the quantifiable data to demonstrate the backwardness of public employees belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes to provide reservations for them in promotions. Recently, Supreme Court upheld Karnataka extension of consequential seniority of government servants promoted on the basis of reservation to the Post in Civil Services of the State Act 2018. The enactment provides for constitutional seniority to SC and STs with retrospective effect from 1978. Consequential seniorities allows reserved category candidate to retain seniority over general category peers. If a reserved category candidate is promoted before a general category candidate because of the reservation in promotion, then for a subsequent promotion, the reserved candidate retains seniority. In effect, consequential seniority undoes the catch-up rule that allowed general category candidate to catch up to reserved category candidate. Fifth schedule of the Constitution. The fifth schedule under Article 244 of the Constitution contains provisions regarding administration of scheduled areas other than in the Northeast India. At present, scheduled areas have been declared in the state of Andhra Pradesh, including Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, and Rajasthan. Schedule area in a state is notified by the order of the President after consultation with the governor of that state. Governor submits a report annually or whenever President requires regarding administration of such areas. Each state having schedule areas must have a tribal advisory body consisting of 20 members. Three-fourths of the members have to be representatives of scheduled tribes in state legislative assembly. The governor is empowered to direct that any particular law of parliament and the state assembly is either not applicable or can be applied with certain modifications and exceptions to schedule areas. Then we have constitutional provisions regarding reservations. Article 15(4) allows the government to make any special provisions for the advancement of any socially educationally backward classes of citizens or for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. This provision was extended to admission in educational institution by 93rd Amendment Act 2006, except minority educational institutions. Article 16(4) allows state to make any provisions for the reservation of appointment or post in favor of any backward class of citizens which in the opinion of state is not unequally represented in the services under the state. Article 46 states that the state shall promote the special care, the educational and economic interest of weaker section of the people, and in particular scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and shall protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. Article 243 provides reservations of seats of SCs and STs in every panchayat. Article 243T provides reservation of SC/ST in every municipality. Article 330 states that seats shall be reserved in Lok Sabha for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Article 332 of the Constitution provides for a reservation of seats of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in the legislative assemblies of state. Then we are going to read about online justice delivery. So why it is in news. More on that news, how online delivery of judicial services help in tackling various issues of judicial system, then the challenges with this, then the way forward, and the details of some important initiatives taken as per the online judiciary system. So why it is in news? Supreme Court recently passed directions for all courts across the country to extensively use video conferencing for judicial proceedings so that the congregation of lawyers and litigants can be avoided to maintain social distancing amid the coronavirus pandemic. So, more on this news, the Supreme Court invoked its power under Article 142 of the Constitution to validate all proceedings through video conferencing. Article 142 of the Constitution allows the Supreme Court to pass an order necessary for doing complete justice in any cause or matter pending before it. Kerala High Court also conducted court proceedings through video conferencing and also live streamed the proceedings. Various steps in the past have also been taken to ensure online delivery of judicial services such as E-Court Mission Mode project of Department of Justice, Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India for district court across the country, providing video conference facility for 488 court complexes and 442 jails. How online delivery of judicial services help in tackling various issues in the global judicial system. First, high pendency. Between 2006 and 2019, there has been an overall increase in 22% in the pendency of cases across all courts. Online judicial services can provide additional aid to clear this backlog and reduce the time and cost involved. Second, enhanced efficiency of court. Standard system generated formats of routine judgments and orders, particularly in civil cases, that can be used by the court for quick delivery of judgment. Reduction of paperwork will relieve judges and other court staff from administrative duties and allow them to focus on judicial functions. Real time online data would facilitate better identification and classification of cases and also enable high courts to exercise proper supervision and control over subordinate courts. Then, tackling infrastructural constraints. Video and audio enabled hearings can save significant court cost in terms of building, staff, infrastructure, security, transportation cost, etc., for all the parties to the court proceedings. Then, availability of judicial data. The Law Commission of India, in its 245th report, noted that the lack of comprehensive and accurate data relating to the case from courts across the country poses a hurdle to efficient policy making by the government. Digital databases created by online judicial services can address this need. Then improving transparency and accountability in judicial system. Allowing video conferencing recordings of the court proceedings can contribute to the transparency of the court processes by allowing a precise record of proceedings. At the same time, discourage improper conducts of courts and wastage of court time. Information related to judicial statistics placed in public domain can help the new stakeholders like advocates, litigants, researchers, and the public at large to be better informed about the state of judicial system. Then promoting ease of doing business, online resolution of contractual disputes will boost the confidence and domestic foreign business as they explore investment in India. Challenges: lack of investment in code and in IT infrastructure. State of the art e codes require the deployment of new age technology like high speed internet connection, latest audio and video equipments, cloud computing, availability of efficient bandwidth, etc. Lack of technical know how among the court officials and staff, and the absence of dedicated in house technical support. Third, low awareness among the litigant and advocate. As per the survey of less than 40% of cases were filed exclusively through a computerized system. Fourth, digital divide in access to justice. Due to this insufficient infrastructure, non-availability of electricity and internet connectivity, and low digital literacy in rural areas. Interdepartmental challenges due to lack of coordination, communication, and interoperability of software between various departments. Cyber security threats. The judicial data comprises of sensitive cases information and litigant data. Their electronic storing and transmission feed security and private concerns. Procedural problems like admissibility and authenticity of evidence received through the video or audio transmissions, the identity of the witness, individuals subject to their own hearing and confidential of the hearings, etc. Way forward: the development of supporting infrastructure. The development of supporting infrastructure, such as internet connectivity, video conferencing, and video equipments, cloud computing, availability of efficient bandwidth, etc. Way forward: the development of supporting infrastructure. The development of supporting infrastructure, such as internet connectivity, video conferencing, and video equipments, cloud computing, availability of efficient bandwidth, etc. Way forward: the development of supporting infrastructure. the development of so we are going to read the way forward and also the details of some of these initiatives tomorrow with the regulations of government advertisements. With this we are going to complete our polity part. Thank you so much for watching.